Hello and welcome to episode 8 of Motorsports with Motorhead. I am your host, Captain Motorhead. Today we have just a little bit of things to talk about. I only have 3 races on the agenda. No truck race still. Won't be until this coming up weekend. And where they're going to be at Watkins Glen. So going straight into Xfinity. We were in the Heartland at Iowa Speedway for the Hy-Vee Perks 250. Jesse Love and William Sawalich would take the front row. Jesse Love ending up in the lead. On lap 2, we'd go to caution for the first time due to the 21 of Austin Dillon, who again was filling in for Austin Hill due to Hill being suspended for right hooking someone last week. Personally, I was okay seeing Austin Dillon getting taken out there on lap 2. It was due to contact from Ryan Siege, due to him getting loose and getting up into Dillon. And I don't know, no offense for Dillon on that one, but for the team, I just didn't want to see it be a great day without Austin Hill in there. So, didn't feel like they deserved it after last week. And maybe that's just being kind of mean, but going to be truthful on that. So I was kind of laughing a little bit inside whenever I saw that one. After that, though, we would go back green and be Jesse Love and Connor Zillage on the front row for the restart, with Zillage taking the lead. A lot wouldn't really happen until the end of stage 1 where Zillage would win. That'd be, again, it though. Stage 2 would be Jesse Love and Ross Chastain on the front row, with Jesse Love taking the lead, just like he did in the beginning of stage 1. But by lap 84, him and Chastain were racing for the lead, with Chastain finally overtaking him. But just 6 laps later, Ryan Ellis would spin inside of Alfredo, and that would cause a caution yet again. Ross Chastain would go on to win stage 2. And to begin stage 3 would be Sammy Smith and Ross Chastain on the front row. Next, yellow would happen on lap 138, with Dean Thompson getting spun by Corey Day. Looked like Corey Day got a little bit loose and got up into Dean. I know they had some words after the race as well. Obviously, Dean not being too happy that he got spun. Corey being a real young driver who still kind of finding his way behind the wheel. And he's been making, just little mistakes here and there, but he's doing really well. Definitely going to be a driver that we'll be talking about for years to come. But obviously, you got to have learning opportunities, and this was one. Didn't look like he was really fighting back with Dean too much. I wish we would gotten to hear exactly what all was said with that, but no cameras were right up there with them. They just kind of showed from afar. But anyway, that leads us back to green with Ross Chastain and Taylor Gray starting 1-2, with Ross Chastain taking the lead. Lap 202 would be a caution for Daniel Dye. He would blow a right front and go right into the wall. Happened right during the corner, and really nothing he could have done. I always hate seeing that for anyone because whether you're pushing your limit as a driver, especially on a speedway and making tight turns, or something just happens and it's just a mechanical failure. Your race ends like that and you're just up in the wall. It really sucks to see. Luckily he was okay, but it was the end of his day. That would bring us back to green though. Brandon Jones and Ross Chastain on the front row. By lap 214, Jesse Love would take the lead, but Ross Chastain would get loose and would actually spin Justin Allgaier during the contact. And I kind of feel bad for Justin Allgaier, Ross Chastain, this race kind of ruined it for him, took him out. His race wasn't entirely over, but they did both spin, losing quite a few places. And then you had just, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago. No, sorry, it was even just last week at Indy. Kyle Larson got loose, got up into Justin Allgaier, and he hit the wall hard enough, and that one actually did end his day. Basically, it completely ruined his rear end. So, 2 times Cup guys have kind of ruined Justin Allgaier's day, especially since he's second in points whenever it comes to both driver and playoff. That's really got to hurt because he's racing for a championship. These other guys are just racing, whether it be kind of for sponsors or as favors for others, or even a little bit of fun just to be able to go down into a little lower series. And it's not like it's easy for them. They're driving a different car than what they're used to, but for him, it's just he's getting the short end of the deal quite a few times this year with that. So I just hate seeing that for him. And I know it wasn't even the first time between him and Larson. I think I'm trying to remember exactly what race it is, but even just a few weeks ago, again, whenever Larson went down to a lower series with the Xfinity, he and Allgaier got into a little bit on the track. So it's been multiple times this year for him. So again, I just feel bad for him on that. Especially since he won the championship last year. He's our defending champ. I know that for the regular season championship, it's probably going to go to Connor Zilic, but we'll see what can happen with these last few races to go. But anyway, going back green, it'd be Jesse Love and Sam Mayer, with Jesse Love taking the lead. Lap 222, Matt DiBenedetto would have a huge hit, and his hood is entirely crushed in on the front. Looked like he got into the back of the 17 whenever they showed the replay, and it stayed green. He would limp it to the pits, but there was a lot of oil on the track, and honestly, I was with the commentators for once on this one because they were saying, well, they should really throw the yellow. There's probably oil on the track. There's probably oil on the track. And I was thinking, yeah, why haven't we seen the yellow yet? You could see a whole bunch of smoke coming out, and it wasn't tire rub. It was definitely engine smoke, and so it looked like it was probably oil coming out and burning onto the engine itself as he was trying to make it down to the pits. It was a pretty big hit, too, whenever they showed the replay. It looked like some guys checked up, and he just didn't check up enough, went right into the back of the 17 and crumpled in his hood. So it was just a racing incident, but without them throwing the yellow, one lap later, on lap 223, Brandon Jones would spin in the oil, and that would finally bring out the yellow. So it really sucks that it caused another driver spinning out before they would even call the yellow, because Brandon Jones lost some spots due to that he very well could have been able to keep if they would have just been able to put out the yellow flag in time, bringing them down to the pit for a minute, letting them do their pit stops, everything else as they clean up the track. So that one I just don't understand. Kind of crazy. Going back green, Sam Mayer would take the lead, and that would be it. He would actually end up winning, which is his second Iowa Speedway win. He just won last year, so he's a back-to-back Iowa winner. Going into the point standings here, we got... All right, hate to break in here. Yep, future me. Hello. Well, NASCAR did something I didn't expect, so it kind of changed up all the standings here, so I had to just kind of interject for a minute. Austin Hill, the one I just talked about a few minutes ago. Well, for me, it was a few days ago. I record these and then post them days later, guys, so this one I had to update. Austin Hill has a waiver signed saying that he is now eligible for the playoffs. I don't exactly know how that's going to work. I tried reading up on it on a few different things. It looks like he has 0 points and not allowed to earn any more points going forward. But now for playoff standings, it goes Connor Zilic, Justin Allgaier, Austin Hill, Sam Mayer, and Jesse Love. That's right. The third name you heard me say sitting in third place is Austin Hill, showing 0 points, but still also showing in third place. To me, that's just a little weird. I don't know. It feels like NASCAR is kind of going back on what they were saying, but at the same time, I looked at the rules and it just said that the driver would lose all current points and not be able to earn any more points going into the playoffs. Well, I guess that means he's still in the playoffs though. So in the end of it all, he could still win his way into that championship 4 race and end up winning the whole thing. Because it all comes down to what driver finishes in front of the others. It doesn't come down to how many points are earned during that race itself, unless, of course, one of them wins. Nope, it comes down to who finishes in front of who, unless one of them wins. So, I don't really know if I'm a fan of that. I feel like they penalized them, but then kind of went back a little bit on the penalization. So, I don't know. But anyway, I'll turn it back over to my previous self to go on into Cup. Looking like Connor Zilic is going to be the winner for the normal season standings. Really looking forward to that for him, especially as a rookie. Hoping to see a good battle between him and Justin Allgaier going into the end, though. But on from there, guys, going to go on to the Cup race at Iowa Speedway. Before I get into this one, I just want to say the commentators for both the Xfinity and the Cup race this weekend weren't the greatest. I talk about this all the time. I listen to MRN radio for the most part. For the Iowa Speedway race, I definitely did. First, I checked in for their normal broadcast on the CW, but I just couldn't deal with it, so I ended up going back over to HBO Max, and I watched the in-car cameras actually for the points leaders for the in normal season standings, that being Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, William Byron, and Denny Hamlin. So I watched most of the race from their perspective. First time I've done that as a 4-screen split thing on HBO Max. In the past, whenever it was on just the NASCAR app, I did watch it from certain drivers' views. Even Kyle Busch a few times. I know I checked in on Josh Berry, as well as a couple others. So I've had a lot of fun with the in-car camera. The kind of weird one for this was Denny Hamlin's car was the only one not in the car, but it was actually switching from a few different camera views, never of which were in the car itself, but we had a roof view. There was a front view, like completely on the front bumper, and then there was a view seen from the rear camera looking out over the back of the car. Typically, it stuck to the front top car view, but it was all pretty cool still, getting to watch the race from that perspective, and then the other 3 Hendrick boys being as if you're in their car. So it was a lot of fun. Spoiler for the race itself, I was even watching from the point of view whenever Larson got put into the wall, when Denny Hamlin spun, whenever a few of the other incidents that happened during the race happened right in front of one of those guys. So it was just really cool. I'm really glad that we're getting to see that type of stuff. For those that don't pay for all the different subscriptions and everything, because I know it's hard to keep up with, and I've had to get a few different things this year, cancel a few different things this year, upgrade my HBO to a different standing for the few weeks it was on HBO even. I was really glad whenever it went to Prime because that's something I already have, so I didn't have to pay anything extra for that. And I don't get to watch every race because sometimes it's on things that I don't have. So in the CW one, that was honestly just a free app on your phone you can be able to get. And then there was a thing I had to be able to do to let me watch the race, but it wasn't anything crazy. So I was able to go ahead and do that. Just decided not to go through with it because again, it's just the broadcast booth. They don't do the greatest to me. I wish they had a little bit more energy. It's I understand not every race is going to be exciting, but whenever there are incidents on the track, you got to really make sure you hit it home with that to be able to show some excitement for the race itself, because that's part of it. I mean, look at the announcers for other sports, especially overseas. I don't understand a word they're saying, but if you've ever listened to anyone from Argentina or even down in Mexico or Spain or anything like that commentate for soccer, or I guess for them it'd be called football, it's absolutely phenomenal. The the energy they bring into it. And again, I don't understand a word of it. I don't speak any other languages, but it's just really cool to even listen to and know that they're that excited about it. And if you listen to some old school NASCAR, they used to be. And here and there, there'll be a race where we have some really great commentary, but races like this one here at Iowa, both for Xfinity and Cup, was just dismal. That's why I ended up, like I said, I switched over to those in-car cameras. And I just put on MRN radio on my phone instead. And as always, the MRN guy is at least better, and they did a pretty good job for this one. So that all said, going into the actual race itself, have Chase Briscoe, William Byron starting on the front row, with Chase Briscoe taking the lead just for the first turn. The William Byron would come firing back in on his inside and actually take the lead before we get into lap 2. Brad Kozlowski would battle his way up to second place, and him and Byron would actually start battling for the lead, going on for almost 25, 30 laps before Brad would end up taking the lead away from Byron, and Brad would go on to win stage 1. And I'm telling you guys, it was phenomenal racing between the two of them. They were side by side. William would sometimes get a little bit better launch going off of a corner, but they ended up hitting some lap traffic. That kind of helped out William a little bit because he was working the high side with Brad stuck down on the low side. And that's where most of the traffic was trying to stay, was the low side, to be able to let them go around. So again, it was helping out Byron. But great racing overall between them. Listening on Byron's radio, that was all I had. He didn't have anything else to be able to put into that. And Brad, that's what he ended up getting by. Absolutely phenomenal to watch, though. Brad likes to would go on to win stage 1, and going into stage 2 would be Chase Briscoe, William Byron yet again on the front row. But when Chase Briscoe takes the lead, he would actually keep it, with Brad and William fighting for position 3 yet again, just like in stage 1. Two of them would be side by side most of the time. Absolutely phenomenal racing between them. Don't usually get to see that between those two drivers. Brad's not been having a great year as well, so it was really cool seeing one of my favorite drivers, and a driver I don't really root for, but I still highly respect, racing it out on the track. I don't like seeing how bad of a year Brad's had, so just seeing him having a good day was really nice. And as they're racing, they all of a sudden cut to SVG, who gets loose and spins, bringing out the caution, kind of ruining some great racing that was going on there. They kind of missed what happened with him. Sadly, didn't really get the best replay. It looks like he just got loose, though, and just kind of spun out. So the camera literally had to pan over as he was already starting to lose it and spin. Doesn't look like there was another car really close enough for there to be any contact, so I think he really did just lose it and spin out on that one. Going back green would be Ryan Blaney and Brad Kozlowski starting on 1-2. They'd be racing side by side, both of them, of course, being in the Fords, with Ryan Blaney finally getting in front. But right as he takes the lead, Cody Ware spins down the front stretch, bringing out the yellow yet again. It'd be Ryan Blaney and Brad Kozlowski starting 1-2 when we go back green. And again, it was side-by-side racing. And I'm telling you guys, the booth, I even went back and listened in on the replays. They were kind of missing how good this racing was. Like, they were talking about it a little bit, but they weren't getting super excited about it. And I know for a lot of fans, they've been complaining that we haven't had great side-by-side racing for the lead this year. It's been a lot of times, first place checks out, and you got good racing second on back. You had great racing right there up front. And there was only a few times I heard him kind of check in on it. So I don't know. You would just think that'd be something they would want to comment on a little bit more and really focus on. I wish they would have been a little bit more like how it was for Amazon's broadcast. I know we can't keep holding everything to that, but they kept showing a lead camera, and then they would show other battle cameras. And maybe this is one of those days where we should have done something like that, because it kept cutting away from the lead to show other parts. And it's, don't get me wrong, I know you got to show the whole race, but when you're having that good of a race for the lead itself, that's something fans really want to see. So I don't know, just maybe my own personal opinion on that one, but we'll see. When we do go back green during that restart, two teammates were getting into it. Two of the Hendrick boys, Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson. And I've seen them get into it myself whenever I was at Kansas Speedway. They were coming off pit road, and all of a sudden Chase Elliott just door slammed Larson. And I went back and listened to the radioactive for that week, and Larson didn't really know what was going on. Chase was upset with Larson because he thought it was Larson's fault for a little incident on pit road when Larson was actually squeezed into him. So, not the first time these two have had any issues, but yeah, Chase Elliott door slams him pretty good, puts Larson up into the wall a little bit. Larson was on the radio talking with Cliff. He was really not happy, but he also was not going off on Chase himself too much. Larson was just saying, he was having a real bad race overall. He had started up in the top 5, but kind of fell back a little bit from there. He was struggling with the car. At one point, Cliff even told him to, yell at me, take that frustration out, let's get back in this. So, not a great day for Larson. And Elliott, he ended up getting by him after that. So, worked out better for him overall as well. After a great battle between Ryan and Brad would end up getting the lead. And he would go on to win Stage 2. Starting Stage 3, it would be Brad and Blaney going 1-2, with Brad taking the lead yet again. Denny Hamlin would spin on lap 220 though, while going 4 wide. A little bit of contact due to the 4 wide that caused him to spin. He didn't just lose it or anything. It was due to the 4 wide. Just wasn't enough track for all 4 cars. They started beating and banging. Denny got the worst of it. As I did mention, yes, I was watching the in-car camera for that one. I saw the 2 cars on both sides of them. I couldn't see that it was 4 wide. I could only tell it was 3 wide. But I was listening to MRN radio, and even they were saying, "Oh, 4 wide. Oh, that won't work. Denny's spinning." I was watching. I was, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool." Literally seeing his car start to lose it. Start to see a little bit of smoke as his tires were starting to burn off because of the fact that he was going sideways. He was hitting his brakes. Just absolutely cool. So much fun to watch. Hate it for Denny, though, because he is trying to fight both for the normal season champion as well as the overall championship. So hate to see that he would spin out. I do like watching the hard racing between him and the rest of the field. That would kind of put him back near the back and kind of be the end of his day. He wasn't wrecked out or anything. No one else made contact with him. He didn't even really hit the wall, so no major damage. It's Iowa Speedway. It's a fast track, and once you lose that track position, it's real hard to get it back. So again, kind of the end of his day. He'd go back to the back. Due to him being back there, though, I would kind of get to enjoy a few other sights as the race would go on. Because right whenever we go back green, which yet again would be Brad and Blaney 1-2, Carson Hocevar would get loose and go up into Zane Smith, who loses it, spins, and backs his car right into the wall. All of this would happen not too far in front of Denny, and I got to see the whole thing. I really wish I had some popcorn at that time, because it was quite a show. And poor Carson. On that one, he really did just get loose. He wasn't trying to be too aggressive or anything. I think he was having some handling issues with his car as well that day. The few times I did kind of get to hear in on his radio, he wasn't too happy. So that one really was just a racing incident, nothing with him being too absolutely crazy. And I say that because he has a little bit of that reputation for being a bit aggressive, some even comparing him to the likes of Dale Earnhardt, trying to say that we have not seen a driver in this new era with this current generation car be as aggressive as he's been. Whenever he was in the Truck Series, he did like to spin some people out, especially if he had disagreements with them on the track. So not too surprised to see that the moment it happened, the commentators instantly were asking, well, Carson was involved, what was going on? But whenever they did cut to the replay, you were easily able to see that he did just get loose, and that's what caused the contact. So, still horrible to see, as it did ruin the day for Zane Smith, and that would bring out the yellow. Going back green, it'd be Ryan Blaney and Austin Cindric, starting off 1-2. And contact with Chase Briscoe causes Eric Jones to spin on the front stretch right not long after we go green. I mean, they just went around for 1 lap. We only had 1 lap green. It was a bit of a chaotic stage 3, as we would get just a few laps and we'd go yellow again. There was quite a few jokes on Twitter and everything else about uh, drivers who aren't even in the series currently winning the race because it was just going on for that long due to all the restarts there in stage 3. As we go back green, it would be Austin Cindric and Josh Berry restarting 1-2 due to pit cycle. At lap 253, Tyler Reddick and Christopher Bell would end up spinning near the front of the field. Luckily, no one else would get caught up in it. The two of them spun because of the fact that Chase Briscoe in the 19 got loose and got up into Tyler Reddick, who then took out Christopher Bell. So it was a bit of an accordion effect there, one getting loose, getting up in another, and taking out another. I guess I should say domino effect, not accordion, sorry. But kind of funny to see on the replay. Also sucks for those two guys because, as I did mention with Denny Hamlin, once you lose that track position, you're kind of stuck there in the back. Kind of ruins your day. So with both of them running up near the front, really sucks to see because they were in the top 10 at the time of the contact that did cause them to fall back. Going back green would be Austin Cindric and Chase Elliott to start off. And right as we get around for just one lap, yet again, we'd go back yellow because SVG would go around on the front stretch. Going back green would be Chase Elliott and Josh Berry. Larson would get into the back of Ty Dillon again as we come back around for the second lap after going green. And Ty Dillon would end up spinning out on the exit of turn 4. Funny thing, I didn't get to hear it at the time because I won't lie, at the time I was listening to William Byron's radio because he was kind of moving his way up through the top 10, almost up there near the front of the field. Looked like it might be a decent race for him, and of course Chase Elliott being at the front, so I was switching between the two of their radios, and I missed this, but I heard it whenever I watched Radioactive later on. Larson said, "Ha! I got one!" after he tapped Dillon, causing him to spin out. Larson was really frustrated, having a bad day, so it was kind of funny to see him say that. And it's not like he intentionally wrecked him, it was just due to the contact and him end up losing and spinning. I think Larson just thought it was a little bit of a funny moment for him and his crew, so they did enjoy that. And it was funny whenever I was even listening on the Radioactive, I was like, oh man, I missed that. I could have heard that in real time, but I was too busy listening to two other radios. So goes to show you never know what you're going to miss whenever you're listening to someone else. As we go back green, it would actually be Chase Elliott and William Byron going 1-2. Blowing my mind as we're getting near the end of the race. I'm seeing the fact that both of them are up there, and you have Alex Bowman up in the top 5 as well. I'm hoping, praying, like, wow, this could be a good day for Hendrick here. You know, sucks for Larson. He is in the back of the field. Got out of line a little bit earlier after hitting the wall, and that's how he ended up getting to spin Ty Dillon. And again, he didn't mean to, so he didn't right rear him or anything. It was contact at the back. And if you watch, there's a little bit of an accordion effect in front of them that led to the contact. Larson had a little bit more of a run. But still, you had 3 out of 4 of the Hendrick guys up in the top 5. And as we go green, I said it would be Chase Elliott, William Byron. All of a sudden, lap 281, we get a caution. Debris on the track. It was actually a side window. Never heard what car it was from, but kind of funny that we would have to even go yellow for a side window. I mean, I know debris happens all the time. Usually it's part of a car, you know, bumper, tire, things like that. But first time I think I can recall seeing a side window, at least as of late. As we go back green, it would be William Byron, Alex Bowman starting on the front, with William Byron taking the lead. I thought he was going to run out of fuel. He hadn't pit in almost 100 laps. He had lots of other drivers on the same pit strategy as him having to pit because they were running out of fuel. But William Byron, after taking the lead from Alex Bowman, would keep the lead even after Chase Briscoe would start to hunt him down. He would put some distance between himself and him. Lap cars would kind of help, and William Byron would get away by almost a full second. Starting to increase his lead to about a second and a half. I would listen in on his radio, hearing his crew chief tell him to back it up, back it up, back it up, trying to get him to back up to the lap cars. And at one point, he even said, back it up all the way to the 19, back it up all the way to the 19. You just got to save your fuel. Just got to save your fuel. And I'm watching, I'm thinking to myself, my God, it's going to be like lap 2 to go, just 2 to go, maybe 3 to go. He's going to run out of fuel. He's going to run out of fuel. On the last lap, he's going across the he's going across the finish line to be able to take the white flag. I heard his crew chief yell to him, flip your switch. And you could actually hear him flip the switch, I'm pretty sure. I think that's what that sound was. Either that or he hit a bump on the track at the same time, but I'm sure it's the switch that he flipped. And that'd be for his alternate fuel, backup fuel. And that's what he used to be able to get around all the way to the checkered flag. And a lot of people were questioning afterwards, how much fuel did he really have? Because he did a pretty nice burnout still. And a lot of people kind of questioning, well, how much were they making up this whole fuel thing? How much were they making up this whole fuel thing? I was still in his in-car camera, and you could hear his car whenever he turned it off and everything after he came to the stop. He got out. You saw the camera guys all come up to him. They did that little interview right there at the start-finish line. And I was watching as they pull up the victory lane up on the actual pits. It was just on a hauler, and they pulled that up. And after a minute, he got back in the car, and he goes to start it, and it struggled starting. And it finally did fire up, and he only had to drive that car maybe 50 yards over to where they had the victory lane pulled up on the actual pit lane. So he didn't have to drive very far, and he turned the car off. Like, it didn't sound like it was running the greatest then, so it tells me it was probably almost out of fuel. And he confirmed it himself the next day in an interview that he did end up running out of fuel, and it was him switching back to his normal tank that allowed him to even get up to victory lane, and that as he even pulled up there, it was running out of fuel again. So he really did run that thing almost entirely dry, which is absolutely awesome. And I mean, great for him and his crew. They've lost a few races this year due to their pit strategy. This one was obviously very close, and a lot closer than they probably wanted it to be. But hey, a victory is a victory. His second one for the year does help and puts him back on top for the driver playoff standings, as it was him and Chase Elliott battling. Last week it was Chase Elliott on top. This week it goes William Byron, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, and Christopher Bell. For the playoff standings, we got Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Shane Van Gisbergen, and William Byron. So, of course, the only one missing from that lineup would be Chase Elliott due to SVG taking that spot with his 3 wins that he has. I still think it's kind of cool on that part, but it also, as I've said before, tells me we might need a little bit of a change up when it comes to how we do run the playoff system. No IndyCar this week, but I do have the F1 Hungarian Grand Prix to talk about. Lando Norris, who started third, had a really good run up onto his teammate of Piastri whenever Piastri cut him off, making Lando have to brake early going into turn 1 right at the beginning of the race. And that would cause Lando Norris to fall back a few spots. Now, I'll be honest, not a lot else would happen at the beginning of the race. A Ferrari driver, Leclerc, would take the lead with Piastri in second. Piastri would take the lead due to pit strategy, causing Lando Norris and his team to go to a 1 pit stop strategy, where they would switch to hard tires, and he would actually have to run the last 40 laps without taking another pit, which is exactly what he ended up doing. There really wasn't a lot of accidents or anything to talk about during the race itself. It was a good, clean race, lots of hard racing for different spots. The Leclerc did get upset with his own crew throughout the race because he kept saying if they would have just listened to me, then we could be still fighting for at least a podium. Now, I don't even know if we're going to be able to do that. It was a whole long text bar they were showing on the screen, because a lot of times whenever the drivers do radio communications, they will show it up on the screen live for everyone, and they do a little text bar, and it's kind of entertaining to watch sometimes. But this one kept growing and growing and growing on the screen because he was just going off on a little tantrum, and I don't blame the guy. He started second, took the lead, was doing absolutely phenomenal, and they get him because of pit strategy. Cost him the lead. He's still falling back, and now he ended up losing the podium after doing so well. And he is at fifth in points currently, so he needed a good day. So not what he wanted to see. So I don't blame him for getting upset on the radio. And I won't lie, it was a little entertaining to listen to. But going on from there, going into the last lap, finally, Piastri runs down Lando Norris, because Lando took the lead due to that pit strategy of only pitting once and having the hard tires going in for the last 40 laps. He had like a 5-second lead on his teammate, but getting down to the last lap, Piastri really closed the gap. And going right across the start-finish line, he had it down to less than a second. Now, he played a little bit of a gutsy move, and it cost him. He late braked into turn one, almost causing contact with Norris, barely missing it. I mean, I even watched the replay on it a couple times back, both the in-car and the view from outside the car. He almost lost his front wing, and if they would have made contact, it would have been the end of the race for both of them, as it would have caused both to spin out, and I guarantee a little bit of damage, enough to probably end the day. So real close for that one, but hey, I get it. Currently, going into the race, Piastri was above Norris on points with a little bit of a gap. Well, due to him having that late break, almost making contact, having to correct, he lost about a second on his own teammate, letting Lando Norris cruise to the win. Point standings for them now, Piastri sitting at 284, Lando Norris sitting at 275. Only 9 points difference. McLaren, you know they're loving it, but at the same time, you know they're a little bit nervous because at the moment, those two teammates are not holding back at all when it comes to being out on the racetrack. They're going for it every lap, every time. There's been a little bit of contact between them a few times this year. It would not have shocked me if near the end of this Hungarian Grand Prix they would have made contact. As I said, it was very close, and they definitely got a little lucky there. Definitely don't want to keep tempting luck that way. But you have Verstappen sitting in third place at 187 points. So yeah, almost a full 100 points behind the leader is where our third place is sitting. And then we have Russell sitting in fourth place, and as I mentioned earlier, Leclerc in fifth. Both of them are sitting down at 172 and 151, so even Russell, he's over 100 points below the second place standings. I don't really know how much of a chance any of those guys really have to making it up to our points leaders at this stage in the year. I might be wrong, especially if both Piastri and Norris end up taking each other out a few times or get taken out by others, maybe things will change. But at the moment, that's a pretty steep mountain to climb. So we'll see how it plays out, though. That is going to do it for me today, everybody. As I did say, it wasn't as much to report on as I usually would. I was a little busy with work, and I didn't really get to keep up on anything happened with NHRA this past week. And there wasn't anything to report on for IndyCar as it was a bye week for them. So not that I missed a race there, just wasn't anything to be able to report on there. Hope you all have a wonderful week. Until next time, stay safe and goodbye.